This is Mile High.
Do I want to tell the story or do I want to show the message?
You've got a lot of work to do between Mile High.
The time has come where we can know
we have a responsibility, an ethical and moral responsibility.
We have to do it better in order to move people along.
Up, down, inside out.
If you get your mind right, it is not. It is a receiver of thought. Because love is my first technique.
it's now time for the show.
Welcome to the Mile High Podcast. This is your host, Dr. Daniel Knowles, joining you from 5,280 feet, which was where we hope you to be in August of 2026 for Mile High 14 and where it should be every year. Now, if you're watching, listening this, please hit subscribe, whether it is on YouTube or iTunes or whatever it might be, so you never miss any Mile High tick. And then additionally, you can get all the details about Mile High 14 at riseuptomilehigh.com. Now, today's guest, I'm super excited to have here. Dr. Noor is a Florida native, hanging out with us in Colorado. She's one of our, Mile High friends. She graduated from University of Central Florida, bachelor's degree in kinesiology, and then she moved on to chiropractic and attended Palmer, Florida. And she is a superstar and one of our homegrown Mile High heroes. She's done most of her training in upper cervical work, so I'm going to show we're going to be talking about upper cervical quite a bit, which is one of the things that's one of my favorite things to talk about as well. And she really has a mission and vision for spreading upper cervical care and highlighting it more in students, doctors, and schools. So, and the world certainly needs more of that. So thank you for joining us today, Dr. Noor.
Thanks. I'm so excited to be here and talk all things chiropractic and philosophy and upper cervical. Let's go.
Well, first let's talk about your dog, Bo.
Yeah.
Tell me about Bo.
He's a sweet, sweet boy. He's exceptionally lazy. He could sleep all day. I take him to the office with me quite a bit, and he lays under my desk, and most people don't even notice that he's there. But he's a great therapy dog. People love to see him in the office, and
Okay.
Yeah, sweet little guy.
And you make sure he's unsubluxated, I'm sure.
Absolutely, yes. I have a great friend who adjusts him regularly.
Good. And then let's talk about you. How'd you find your way into the chiropractic world from kinesiology? Was that before, you were planning to go to chiropractic in the first place, or is that an afterthought, or what happened with there? How did you find up your path?
Yeah, interesting story. So I had a horrible low back injury when I was 21 in college and, had multiple surgeons telling me I needed surgery, which was outrageous, pretty minor disc herniations. Ended up seeing a chiropractor, and within a couple of visits, I was back to normal after being nearly bedridden for almost a year. Pretty horrible. And yeah, that chiropractor really changed my life. And it's interesting because I remember that chiropractor, not even thinking anything of it, of just oh, this is just what I do. People just get better, and didn't really notice, or I don't know, it maybe show how profound of a healing art that she had and how much she changed my life. After that, I actually studied nutrition for a while. I didn't really consider being a chiropractor at that point. Studied nutrition, and it didn't light me up. I was still searching for something different. And a chiropractor that I was seeing at that time was you should really go to chiropractic school. And I was like, maybe, maybe I'll go next spring. And she's like, no, you should go now, and you should go to Palmer. You just got to do it. And she really pushed me on that path, which I'm super grateful for.
So now why upper cervical?
When I first started chiropractic school, I just thought I was going to be another traditional chiropractor, didn't know upper cervical existed. And I remember it so distinctly. I was in third quarter, and I went to a presentation by Dr. Julie Mayer Hunt.
Ah,
And she presented Scott Rose's research pre and post MRI of these neurodegenerative diseases, talking about Alzheimer's and dementia and brain injury. And I was just, I mean, totally immersed in it after that. Couldn't get enough information, couldn't ask enough questions. Really became just obsessed with it. And I didn't understand why other people weren't
hmm.
more interested in it. There was such a small upper cervical presence at Palmer, Florida. But yeah, I was pretty much tunnel vision into upper cervical after that. Yeah.
Now you've been a big participant in chiropractic in Colorado, attending Mile High multiple times, speaking at Mile High. What's your experience of being part of the Colorado chiropractic community and being at Mile High?
It's so wonderful, and I'm so, so grateful that I landed here and that I landed somewhere that has such a strong philosophical presence. I was so immersed in that when I was in Florida with the Florida Chiropractic Society, such a great group of people. And I didn't know if I was going to find something like that when I left Florida. And I'm so grateful that I did. I love the philosophy nights that we host, and Mile High it's an event once a year, but I feel like it is present all year long. There's always something going on about Mile High, building up to Mile High. So I love it. It keeps me fired up and keeps me focused, and reminds me of my passion and my purpose here. So I love it. It's an awesome group to be a part of for sure.
I didn't know it was going to take a life of its own. I think really the thing I've learned is that chiropractors thrive in community. We're so
Yes.
often, in our offices and like a foxhole, taking care of people and thinking, teaching them something that they have no awareness of. For the majority of what people walk into chiropractic offices is this world that they're not aware of and way of thinking about health and well-being. And that, when we get together as chiropractors, whether it be any technique seminar or philosophy night, like you to mention the ones in Florida, or an annual event, there's something that enlivens that in us as
Yes.
part of something. So, I really think it is important for docs to have that in their backyard or have their own little group that they start up so they have time to connect. So and that helps people grow. Because there's a little lack of what we need in chiropractic school that we need to get outside of chiropractic school. So,
Totally.
you know,
Yeah.
there's a lot we don't get.
I think it's necessary. I think when you're in school, you kind of take for granted that you're just surrounded by a cohort of people who all think the same way that you
Yes.
understand what you're doing. And then you get out in the real world and you're kind of isolated,
Yeah.
you kind of in the haystack. So you have to find your people to really stay focused and stay the course, and yeah, be reminded of our mission and purpose as chiropractors. Totally.
Yeah. 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 Absolutely. So now, let's go to what you love about upper cervical care. There's lots of types of upper cervical care. There's probably as many types of upper cervical care as there are types of other techniques. So, what do you love about upper cervical care, and what's your particular focus?
Yeah, so I am an Atlas orthogonal upper cervical doc. I love the orthogonal thought process and mindset. My brain is very particular, very precise. I love, calculations and specific numbers. And if you're listening to this and you're familiar with orthogonal techniques, it's all calculations, right? And measurements and getting things as precise as possible. So my brain just loves that. It just so happens that it also produces miraculous results. I think traditional chiropractic, certainly creates, space for miracles and space for healing. Absolutely. But I feel like the things that I see in my office are just so over the top, healing from brain injuries and healing from, massive traumas and issues that people have jumped through hoops and seen all these different providers and haven't really gotten that relief. So I guess selfishly, I feel special, when someone is like, oh, I've gone to all these people and nothing has helped. And then finally, this upper cervical work is what changes their life. So it's exceptionally rewarding and fulfilling for me, totally. I feel like I can help anyone, in any walk of life, any age, with with anything. And I love being a specialist. I love having a niche and being able to set myself apart from, the 50 other chiropractors in my town. So I love just having that kind of edge, that uniqueness. And I think that that's really what has drawn me, to being an upper cervical doc. Yeah.
Now, let's help people through this. One of the things that um, I love about upper cervical period is that when someone comes in, now obviously you're going to have people like I do with network that come looking for network, but it's not the majority. And you probably have people that come looking for upper cervical care about your particular type, orthogonal. Like I have that, but it's not the majority of who walks in. Yet, what I love is that you have to then take people on a new journey and bring people to a different way of thinking beyond just audio thinking, but like particularly an approach of how you're going to check their spine, how you're going to analyze the spine, and why you do that. What's one of the things of how you do that and bringing them into, from thinking I'm going to get, equivalent of care at the joint to getting this specialty that you do?
I think I really emphasize how important the brain is. So much of
Ah,
what I talk about with patients comes down to the brain and brain function, nervous system function in general, of course, but I feel like when I talk about the brain, it really sets me apart and really piques people's interest of like, how can we get your brain functioning at an optimal level so that the rest of your body can function at a more optimal level? And I think people really understand that. It's very simple. It's not complicated. It's like, hey, if your head is crooked, your brain cannot properly relay information. And if
mm,
we balance that out, your brain has much more power and much more influence over your body. And excuse me. And you can apply that to anything, right? And I love when people just get it. And most of the time people do. It's like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Totally. Why hasn't anybody explained that to me before? So I really lean into that, and help people understand that if we improve brain function, we can improve XYZ. We can help eliminate XYZ. We can just get your body functioning and performing better. And people want that.
mhm.
People. I've never explained that to somebody where they're like, oh well, I don't want my brain functioning better. So I think that that's a really good way to make it very accessible and very understanding to people who, yeah, they come in my office and they have no idea what to expect or what it is that I'm going to do.
Hmm. Hmm. And so, what are some miracles? And there's a word of whether we use that word or not, but what are some exciting things that you've seen change that are beyond what the person, the average chiropractor is going to think happen or get super excited about that you've seen in upper cervical care?
Yeah, gosh, one of my favorite cases happened late last year. I see this little boy, he's autistic, really struggles with just his emotions and his behavior, major outbursts, can't communicate. So much built up energy in his body and in his brain. And, since adjusting his atlas in a precise way, he's just much more calm. He makes eye contact with me. He understands what it is that we're doing. He comes in, he's excited to get on the table, where before I was really fighting with him. He actually spoke and said a few words, which he had never done. He's 5 years old, and his parents were told that he will never speak. And it just opened up this totally new world of possibilities for this kid and for his parents, of him getting to this level that was just never ever expected. That I mean, just, his mom and I cried together. Just absolutely, I mean, phenomenal, so rewarding. Like how crazy that I have this gift and this knowledge where I can make something like that happen.
Don't you just love the kids?
Oh, I love them. I love them. I never thought I was going to be a pediatric doc. I mean, just not what I gravitated towards. But I'll tell you, I did training with Dr. Tony Ebel with the PX docs and learned so much about working with neurodevelopmental delays and kids with autism and ADHD. And man, that stuff is really remarkable. And that population needs so much support and knowledge and help. And that's a small percentage of my practice. That's maybe 15% of my practice that I see those kids. But some of the most powerful cases that I see for
Hmm.
sure of
Hmm.
doing upper cervical work with those kids. Um,
Right.
yeah, pretty remarkable.
Now you mentioned, I don't remember, I think we were talking before we started the podcast, or maybe in another conversation about how, the first couple months of like out of school, it kind of hits you like this is more than maybe I anticipated opening a practice or getting going. What are some of the lessons that you learned after graduation, after you had your DC degree?
Oh man, good question. I think I learned that, gosh, so much. I think because what I just said earlier of like when you're in chiropractic school, you're so immersed, and everybody
Hmm.
understands what it is that you're doing. But then when you get out, you're talking to people who really don't know. Um, and I think having that communication skill of being able to explain chiropractic in a way that is digestible and not preaching the 33 principles, to people at a networking event, which like if you know me, I'm all about preaching the 33 principles, but
You
you
mean at
have
a networking event, you don't tell them, hey, principle seven is this? That's not what you do?
I learned real quick to not do that.
I thought that's the way to go, you know?
And it's so interesting like what is so important to you when you're a student. And I think that really changes when you become a doctor because you have to meet people where they're at in a different way and you have to
Mhm.
speak as a doctor and as an expert in this profession so that people respect you, and people uh, understand the value of what it is that you do. Um, I think communication and communicating chiropractic is the biggest thing that I had to shift when I graduated of like, whoa, this was maybe perceived well by other chiropractic students, but this is not perceived well by the general public. Yeah.
You mean you
Uh,
don't talk to the general public the same way you would talk when you were a student in a student club?
I wish that I could say I do, but you just can't. And if you told me that when I was a student, I would be like, oh, whatever. Like the world needs to know about chiropractic
Well,
philosophy.
same thing. Like I immersed in network, talking to other students about going to network club and what network is. You don't use the same skill strategies to talk to the person, that you meet in a coffee shop in Boulder.
Totally. Totally. It's absolutely true. And I think maybe some students have a hard time hearing that or understanding that, but like, man, that's a big shift that you got to make for sure. Yeah. Otherwise, you're just another weirdo chiropractor. Like that's not what gets people in the door. People need to
And there's pluses to being a weirdo chiropractor. I mean, I think in some areas I am, but you got to change that when you're talking to people a little bit.
Yes, you have to meet people. Yeah, meet people where they're at for sure. Know your
So
audience.
yes, yes, that would be important thing. So then, shifting into the business side of chiropractic, like how did you shift into making that thrive compared to telling people like, hey, here's a model of Atlas and this is why you need to see us.
Yeah. I think, in school and as a basis of chiropractic philosophy, we don't like to talk symptoms. We don't
Mhm.
like to talk about eliminating symptoms, but I have found that from a business perspective, really honing in on a few different conditions or a few different symptoms or a certain population and really having a niche, I think is so valuable. In school, they want to preach like help everyone with a spine, from womb to tomb. And from a business perspective, I don't think that that's really the most efficient way to handle practice. Like I have found it so effective to really grow my practice by really focusing on brain injury, concussion, migraines, vertigo, like those things. Oh my gosh. I mean, people hear those words in a networking event and they want to know more, right? They want to know what is this thing that you do that is a natural, effective way uh, to handle, these conditions and these symptoms. And um, I think that having a niche and really honing in on something is a really effective way to market and grow a practice, as opposed to just throwing out this huge net, right? And trying to tell everybody that you can help them with this and that and this and that. It's harder. It's harder that way, in my opinion. So I think having a niche and really honing in on a specific population or a specific, thing or condition has been super, super effective and helpful for me. And I wish I did that from the beginning.
So now you've, people get more successful and they get out of that, how do I survive mode, right? And post DC and their office is booming, and they're taking care of lots of people. On the other side of that, often they, many, not all, but often people like you, want to then give more. They feel like they want to help others, and you have a very a lot of passion around helping students. Like you're going out to Palmer, Florida, and you do that each year to go speak at the student club. Why is focusing on schools and students a big part of your vision and mission?
When I was in school, I poured so much of my time and energy into the upper cervical club, and I watched it grow. And I have seen so many people graduate and become upper cervical chiropractors. I don't mean this in a boastful way, but because of me growing that club, and because of my influence. And I can only see a certain amount of people in my office, but if I can inspire and lead other people to become upper cervical chiropractors, oh my gosh. I mean, that's just exponential growth of people who can access this care and be aware of this care. I can't tell you how often I have patients or people in my bubble that, say, "Oh, why haven't I heard of this before? Is this new? Like, where did this come from? My other chiropractor didn't do this." And I think that needs to change. I think it needs to be a more mainstream, accessible type of work. And I think that the most efficient and the most powerful way I can do that is by helping other people and other students become upper cervical chiropractors, right?
Hmm.
Because then it's this huge, bubble growth exponential of people all over the country, all over the globe, people that I graduated with, that I worked with, are practicing in Barcelona and Colombia and bringing this work to other countries that it has never existed before. So, like, man, I mean, if I have a purpose in life, like it is that,
Hmm.
to spread upper cervical to as many people on the globe as possible. Like,
Hmm.
what else is all of this for?
So why do you think there's schools don't focus on it or make it even part of their base education? Why are schools phasing that out?
And that's such a loaded question. I think there are so many political and financial reasons for that.
No, you think?
And just the organizations and the people who are in charge of, kind of controlling and managing the chiropractic profession. I think there's a lot of flaws within it for sure. I think it's hard.
Hmm.
I think I hope I don't get hate for this, but I think it's relatively easy to be like a traditional chiropractor.
Hmm.
I think you can go through school and learn the basics and work and help people. But to be proficient in upper cervical requires a lot more equipment, the x-rays, the machines, the tables, the equipment that you need. It is such a detailed skill that it requires a lot more time and effort to learn and be proficient in. I think that just turns a lot of people away,
Hmm.
honestly. Which is unfortunate. Like that's what draws me to it. But I think there are a lot of other easy way outs, I guess. But yeah, I don't know why schools talk down on it so much. I can't tell you how many professors when I was in school that would just make jokes about upper cervical and oh, you can't build a practice adjusting one bone and there's no way you can help someone with low back pain by adjusting the atlas. And like none of that is true. That's total garbage.
Well,
Uh,
a couple things that I'm going to insert there. A, asking many, I won't say all, but many of the people that are teaching in schools strategies for success is not a wise thing. People teaching in schools generally are not haven't been the most, and there's certainly exceptions. There are stellar people in some schools, but if you ask most of them for, how to be a great clinician or a great business person, that they're not the best people to ask.
yeah.
As you just kind of say, and I'll just say it more openly. Sadly, right? Because it should be people, it should be that you can. And then, this whole word, I've been playing with this lately because like you said this, and I'm sure I've said it, and people say it all the time, like, a traditional chiropractor. I don't really like that term because most of what people are doing and calling traditional chiropractic is not even traditional chiropractic. It's a bastardization, and they're
That's true.
calling it traditional chiropractic. It may be conventional, maybe it's conventional chiropractic or something. It's like
Yeah.
conventional for this time, but what you do is more like traditional chiropractic, right?
You
And
know,
even
that's a good point. I say traditional chiropractic all the time, and no one's called me out on it until you just now. And I really appreciate it because you're right. I mean, traditional chiropractic, if you want to get to the roots of it, is like knee, chest, hole in one, you
right.
know?
I mean, and a lot of stuff that BJ taught. And to
Yeah.
be honest, with network, and this would be a longer conversation you and I have, like I think things in network are more like traditional chiropractic than what people are doing and calling
Yeah.
traditional chiropractic.
Yeah.
Like this is the
Maybe,
underlying principles.
maybe I should call it mainstream chiropractic.
Mainstream, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
mainstream's a good one. Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
that's a good saw. I kind of like that.
Yeah.
You know,
That's probably more accurate.
Yeah, probably is more accurate.
Yeah.
I often say also like, well, if you're gonna do, you can be a chiropractic generalist, and there's a chiropractic or there's a specialization, like, what you do is a specialization or a certain focus. So
Yeah.
there are chiropractic generalists, and you'll get kind of general outcomes, but if you really want to get the good stuff, you're gonna get a specialist focus
Yeah.
in some
Yeah.
particular area, you
And
know.
hey, generalized mainstream chiropractic is great for a lot of people. Like
Oh, absolutely, it
I,
changes lives.
I'm not going to sit here and say that all the joints should be shut down and
Yeah, me
uh,
neither, for
it,
sure.
it serves a great purpose for very general care for a lot of people. And for a lot of people, it is their first introduction into
Hmm.
chiropractic and
Uh,
understanding the world of
it
chiropractic.
changes lives, it serves a particular market, and so on, you know?
Totally.
But also sometimes, like what you were saying, teachers at school, the mainstream will then knock the specialist,
Yeah.
right? And it's like, there's no need. There's a particular focus that also gives great outcomes and other changes maybe you're just not aware of, and you could learn a little bit more, and grow
Totally.
from a more general mainstream understanding, right? So,
Totally.
everybody has a place to grow.
That's right.
So, what is there any last thing that you want to share with the chiropractic audience at large, the Mile High audience?
Well, I really kind of want to call on chiropractors, and this was the big theme of my talk at Mile High, if you guys were there, is just to show up a little bit more and show up a little bit better and do good by the profession. We as chiropractors, we are carrying the profession on our back. There are no outsiders outside of chiropractic who are coming in to try to make the chiropractic profession better. Like
Hmm.
it is up to us. And whether that is going and influencing students, speaking on different campuses, gosh, we really need that, especially from principled chiropractors and on campuses where, some of these students haven't even heard this stuff. Like, we really got to show up in those ways. Being involved in your local communities and building the local communities. And, like you said, chiropractors need community and we need to lean on each other and be there for each other. And financially, obviously, like pouring money into your local organizations, like this stuff doesn't just happen for free, like these things need to be done and they need to be done by us. Like this whole bystander of like, oh, somebody else will do it and somebody else will fight for it and someone else will take care of it. Like, that's not good. We cannot survive and thrive in that way, So I really just encourage and hope to, maybe motivate or inspire chiropractors to just show up more and do better for the chiropractic profession. It's
Mhm.
necessary.
Mhm. Yeah, when I was in chiropractic school at Sherman, Tom Gilardi, I heard him say this multiple times. It was probably at an assembly, and he said, your state organization dues are your rent. You need to, just like you pay, electric, and you pay all, pay being part, contributing to your school and your state organization or whatever it might be is part of your rent. Because if you don't contribute to that, someone else will be, and someone else will be, shifting that,
Yeah.
so, being part of whatever national and state organization, because sometimes people, well, I can donate, at least be doing that. Some people will, if you can at least do that, if you can't give time with whatever you're passionate about, whether it be the ICPA or, for you, there's probably upper cervical organizations that you want to support and so on. You have to do that.
Yeah. And it, and it
It's
doesn't have to
really
be anything crazy, Like
no.
I pay, $33 a month to, Mile High Foundation. Like it is a business write-off. I mean, I don't even think about it, like why? Like it's not even a thing. I go and speak at schools. I try once a year. I
Mhm,
try to show up to Upper Cervical Council seminars, conferences. Like you just got to stay involved because otherwise
mhm.
things happen without you knowing about it and it's not good, not good.
And thank you for mentioning the Mile High Foundation there, and thank you for being a supporter. And that's like an example. I often tell people, look, think of one adjustment a month and give it to maybe give it to Sherman, maybe give it to a particular school, or
Yeah,
think of one adjustment a month. If you can't at least give that back, there's a concern that's going on, right?
yeah,
to
yeah,
to whatever group it is, the IFCO, whatever it might be. Okay.
totally.
So, but don't ACA, don't give money to the ACA. So just make sure you don't do that. Okay.
Yeah, be smart
And
about it.
you can quote me on that. Like just don't give money. Danny Knowles, don't give money to the ACA. Just post that on Facebook. Don't give money to the ACA. Quotes Daniel Knowles and tag me in it.
His
Okay.
most famous quote.
Yeah, post it in the Mile High group for me, um, or anywhere. Right? I don't mind being quoted on that. You can tell them I said that officially. So, okay. So, well, and thank you for being part of the chiropractic community in Colorado, and thank you for supporting students. And I'm going to also make a famous quote here. Here's my new one. You can post this one too. Be like Nor. So you can do that. Okay.
What would Nor do?
Yes, just say that. Yeah, yeah.
Thanks,
Just
Danny.
be like Nor. What would Nor do? And that would be great. So, and on that note, what would Nor do? Nor will be, I'm sure, at Philosophy Night coming up. So there'll be a next Mile High
Yes.
Philosophy Night, and be like Nor, be at Philosophy Night, and be at Mile High. So,
Yes, it'll be a good time. It's always a good time. Like it's not like we're trying to get you guys to come to some boring all day long lecture. It's a fun time. You're surrounded with your people. You're talking about, the crazy thing that the patient did this week that you wouldn't talk about to just your non-chiropractor friends and we eat and drink and yeah, it's a good old time.
I tell you, I love even if there wasn't any speakers, just seeing my friends, and
Totally.
talking to other
Yeah.
chiropractors. So,
Yes.
you just put it on your calendar. And same thing with Mile High. We have great speakers, and at the same time, just be there to be with a chiropractic community. People, it helps you as a chiropractor to be in community with other chiropractors. So, well,
Totally.
thank you so much for taking your time, Nora, and I
Yeah,
look
thank
forward
you.
to crossing paths in Colorado. I'm sure we will. And
Absolutely.
keep changing spines, lives, and minds with chiropractic.
Thanks, Danny. Thanks so much.